if you have that broken internal terrain, literally no amount of optimization or missing miracle ingredient will work. Getting your physical frequency optimized and elevated translates into the mental, emotional, spiritual realm. Symptom is actually a miracle.
Well, hello, both of you. Hello, Katie. Hello, Megan.
Hi.
Hello, both of you. Oh, this is really exciting. So Megan, maybe I'll let you introduce yourself briefly, but we met because one of the people you were working with on his health, you thought there would be a really nice bridge with my work. And I have to say, what you've done with him and all the conversations you've already had with him have pushed my work and all the things that I do so much further. And one of the reasons I was really excited is because Katie and I talk about the body so often and how often it is so interconnected, and somehow our culture has separated those things from one another. And so I was really interested to have us all in a room and chat about this whole idea of our bodies and our minds and our souls and how all that cohabits.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm so honored to be here and really excited to dive in. It's one of my favorite places to have conversations is on podcast. And yeah, I'm Megan. I'm a holistic health and detox coach. So I specialize in colon cleansing, liver cleansing, parasite cleansing, mold detox, heavy metal detox. And I work with high performing professionals, founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs to help them resolve the physical symptoms they're experiencing, to transform their health and to upgrade their lives, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. I think, the physical body is being in an optimal state is so, so important, but elevating your frequency in the physical realm actually translates into the mental, emotional, spiritual realm as well. So I'm a really big believer in the approach that I take, which is proper cleansing and detoxification of the body and really allowing the body to heal and regenerate itself from within, which I don't think that most, conventional medicine and even functional medicine does well. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I have a private practice. I've written 2 books. I'm very active, posting a lot of content on Substack, LinkedIn, Instagram, and I can share more about all that stuff at the end. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, one thing as you were speaking that was occurring to me that very often when people are wanting to transform their lives, they don't look at the very basis of where they're living, which is in their bodies. And, how am I supporting creating a foundation for the growth that I want to create? And I just see over and over again that that people think, well, I can just think my way through this, or if I change from coffee to tea, that'll do it. Or rather than really looking at that, your body is the medium through which all of your nutrients and whether those are something you put in your mouth or your eyes or your ears, that that all creates the container that holds the possibilities. And some friends of mine who are physicians in Germany were saying that they think that detox is the issue of our time and is going to continue to be because of all the accumulation of pesticides and pollution and plastics and ultra processed food and all of that. And so my question is, when somebody comes to you, what do you find is the most successful kind of framework or commitment for them to be able to encounter this work? Because my experience has been that it's a full-on involving every part of your life, and people don't understand that. Well, I'll just change whether I eat this or that, but they don't understand that it's going to change their whole relationship to the world.
Yeah, so I think the biggest sort of framework shift that people sort of understand in starting their work with me is most people, the majority of people, even practitioners, are focused on the inputs. So, what do I need to change about what I'm eating, what supplements I'm taking, what products I'm taking or using to get the physical results that I'm looking for? So, people are fixated on food and supplements and products and pills and capsules and gummies and drink mixes and how much protein they're eating and all these different inputs. And while the inputs are extremely important, of course, the food that you eat is extremely important, but the outputs are way, way, way more important. So people, have all these physical symptoms and they try to change all the inputs, but they continue to feel off. And why is that? Why do they continue to feel off? Well, if your bucket is completely full of toxins because of all the things that flood our mainstream diet and lifestyle, so our food, our air, our water, our clothes, our household products, our skincare products, our makeup products, there's 85,000 chemicals that exist right now, 10,000 in our food supply alone. Then your internal systems your internal systems get weakened and obstructed. Your organs just stop functioning properly. Basic functioning within your body gets impaired, and then you experience complete cellular congestion and breakdown. And if you have that broken internal terrain, literally no amount of optimization or missing miracle ingredient will work. What you need to do is actually empty the bucket, do so correctly with the right cleansing modalities, build an entirely new foundation of the body, regenerate your organs and systems before you can actually think about optimizing. So the biggest shift in framework that's necessary for people to do this work is an understanding that you have to focus on detoxification before you can focus on optimization. So I love these two analogies I use often. If a fish is sick, you clean the tank, not the fish. If a flower doesn't, bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. And the same thing applies to the body. And people need to understand that. And oftentimes when they come to me, they've tried everything else, right? They've done all the tests, they've taken all the supplements, they've gone to Western medicine doctors, they've even gone to functional medicine doctors, and they're still experiencing dead ends. And it could have been lasting like 5, 10, 15 years. And they come to me with an understanding of, oh, okay, now I see that nothing else has worked. And clearly there's something wrong with this internal foundation within my body. And yeah, so I think like that, once people actually understand that, and I think it's an experiential thing. So like once people start the process of colon cleansing or liver cleansing and they see that their physical symptoms are starting to go away and pretty rapidly as well, and the skin issues go away, the hormone issues go away, the gut issues, then they start to realize like, wow, okay, this is the thing that I was missing. And then they get really bought into the work and really understand that, okay, I really need to clean my body, and then my body will heal and regenerate itself. So yeah, hopefully that answers. That was kind of long, but
that was a brilliant introduction and makes total sense. My personal experience has been that finally getting my leaky gut fixed after decades and decades made everything else possible. And so I'm imagining liver and gut cleansing that also people don't understand that they could feel so much better than they do. Because I think the contamination, creates a kind of film that makes everything grayer and more diminished. And that when people have an experience of their kind of birthright aliveness, that could be a huge wake up call, but also just a support for doing the work. Like, I didn't even know that I felt so bad because it was just the way things are.
Yeah, totally. And again, as I said before, it really getting your physical frequency optimized and elevated translates into the mental, emotional, spiritual realm. I work with so many high performers that are really, doing incredible things in the workplace, and they're so driven and They have so many ambitions and they want to do so much in the world and make such a big impact in the world, but they have gut issues. They feel tired every day. They have, they have painful periods. They have skin issues. They feel lethargic. They have brain fog and lack of mental clarity. Like, you can't really perform at your highest potential and really tap into like yourself, something greater than yourself, your intuition, like at all, if your physical body is completely congested with toxic waste. And so oftentimes with my clients, I'll see, oh, we resolve the physical symptoms. And all of a sudden, because they're operating at an elevated frequency, then things start to happen in other areas of their life. They meet a new partner, or they get some huge work opportunity, or they tap into their spirituality more and deepen their spiritual practice. So it all sort of maps together. And I think this work is so, so important, and vice versa, right? I think doing the mental, emotional, spiritual work is so important to resolve physical symptoms as well. So it all plays together.
One thing that's striking me when I'm hearing you both start this introduction is my car was needing gas and water, as a matter of fact, and it started doing what it does. It started blinking and telling me things, and I paused. And knowing we were going to talk today, I was thinking, the car has more ways. And what did I do? Of course, I went to get gas. I don't want to be stopped in the middle of the freeway or have my engine start to burn. And so I was thinking, like, what are symptoms are how people decide to do something about their health. And I'm wondering if there is something that can even be the education of it, that we would not wait, because sadly, it's like the gas informs us that it needs it in the car before the car breaks down. But the symptoms in our bodies, the skin, all the symptoms you were talking about, we get the call when it's already very broken.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tell people get frustrated by symptoms. When they come to me, they're so frustrated by, and I can share more about my story, but I healed myself through all the modalities I use. I had cystic acne and hormone issues and all sorts of things. And when I had acne when I was younger, I was so frustrated by the acne. Like, it was so debilitating for me. I didn't have confidence. I lacked self-esteem. It was frustrating to always be breaking out all the time. But in reality, a symptom is actually a miracle, because your body is always, your body's built to be perfect. It's always trying to help you. It's never trying to hurt you. So a symptom is actually your body giving you an indication that it's not the cause, it's the effect. It's a message from the body that's telling you that something is unresolved that needs to be resolved. And so symptoms manifest differently for every single person. For one person, it could be acne. For another person, it's psoriasis. For another person, it's eczema. But it's no different. They're all just physical manifestations of internal imbalance within the body. So I always say it's actually a blessing for people to be able to get symptoms and listen to them. I think the problem is the majority of people just accept these things as normal. So I have this free detox quiz on my website. I think about 700 or 800 people have filled it out, and I'm able to see the responses in aggregate for all the questions. So basically the quiz walks you through a set of questions about your symptoms, and it tells you at the end of the quiz where you are on your detox journey and where you should start. And I'm launching some digital products to serve people at different entry points. What I've seen in the quiz results is most people are living with symptoms. Like, they're living with, I have gut issues every day, or I feel tired every day, or I feel inflamed every day. And people have accepted these things as normal. And I always say they're not normal, they're just common. And so I try to, it's really crazy to me how many people just live in such pain. But I encourage people to, who are listening to this podcast, tune in to what are the physical symptoms that you're struggling with and what's manifesting for you every day. And instead of just pushing them to the side and saying that they're normal, actually use them as an opportunity to make change, because the symptoms are telling you something.
Yeah, and they tend to grow. They tend to get louder.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it might be a little thing, and if you don't listen,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I work with a lot of, I work with some older people, but a lot of people 20s, 30s, and 40s, and, of course, dealing with physical symptoms. But if you don't resolve these physical symptoms now, that's when you start to see chronic disease later, like cancer and diabetes and um, a bunch of other things like manifest later in life because the symptoms were unresolved and just continue to pile up. So I think it is really important for people to address symptoms head on and not to ignore them.
Yeah, we have a little saying that first the universe tickles you with a feather, but if that doesn't work, it comes back with a sledgehammer. So,
Yeah.
I think that and what I hear underneath that I wonder if you run into is a basic antagonism between where I think I live up here in my head and my body that just won't cooperate. It just won't do what I'm telling it to do. That sense of that the body is separate somehow from where I live. And so not really having a friendly or a loving relationship with your body, more fearful or trying to control it, or basically just not being open to the language of your body. I'm imagining that you run into that.
For sure. Yeah. I went to Hoffman Process, which is a retreat in Northern California a couple years ago. And they really teach you the concept of the four bodies: the physical body, the mental, intellectual body, the emotional body, the spiritual body. I think most people, including my old self, I was in the corporate world, in tech and venture capital, working in San Francisco and New York. I was so in my intellectual body, like so in the head and not in my physical body, not in my emotional body, definitely not in my spiritual body. I think most people live in their mental body, like they're very much in their heads, not so much in their hearts, not so much in their spiritual essence. And I think, there's so many different modalities that help you to tune into your emotional and spiritual body, and there's so many other modalities other than detox, but I think this work really allows you to reconnect with your spiritual body, with your emotional body, because you're clearing all the waste out of the body. So you're able to reconnect with yourself, if you are completely congested and you have all these symptoms and you don't feel good every day, it's very hard to actually connect with yourself,
It's funny because as you probably both know, but I used to be 300 and some pounds, and my body really was my enemy. Like the shift when I lost the weight and I became healthy, it actually started with a very profound detox 20, 30, whatever, 25 years ago. But this moment where it shifted, it went from this is the area that causes me so much pain and so much rejection and so much don't fit in the clothes, don't get to the part, like all the things when you're a teenager or a younger person, it really mattered. I don't know if it would matter so much today, but it certainly mattered then. But that moment where I just started looking at it as like, you my friend, you my vehicle. Without you, I don't exist. I don't go anywhere. I can't do anything. It just was I probably would determine this was the moment where I then started treating my body like it's a friend, and I wouldn't give it, food that would hurt it. It was so profound. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say to my clients, and this is one of like my quotes that's like that I say a lot, is your body is your own home for the rest of your life. Like I think people, it's so strange, right? Like if your house, you deep clean your house and you take the garbage bags out, or you fill your car with gas and you change the oil and you take care of your belongings and your kids, and then it's like when it comes to our own vessels that, it's our home for the rest of our lives, we treat it with disrespect and we treat it like a garbage can. It's like kind of strange. So I just encourage people to think of like, yeah, your body is this vessel that's going to carry you forward for the rest of your life in this lifetime, in this human experience. So I think it's really important to treat it with the utmost care and respect, just as you do everything else in your life.
I would imagine that you run into something that we do also, that when one clog opens up, something deeper that has been pushed down or ignored,
Mhm.
or jumped over being trying to, then that comes up. And particularly, old emotional issues, unresolved conflicts. And
Yeah.
then people have often had the response, well, oh, great, I'm doing this work and now everything's worse because,
Yeah.
I have all of these other things
Yeah.
to deal with.
Yeah. That's a really good point. So that happens both in the physical and emotional. So physically, I always say to my clients going through this process, the symptoms are the cure. So if you have a bunch of congestion and mucus and toxic waste that's in your body, when we start this process, it's not like things just automatically get better. There's a lot of detoxification and symptoms that can come up as you go through this process because your body is releasing stored mucus, toxins, waste, and debris that has been in your body for years, right? So that can manifest as skin issues getting worse for a little bit, or more fatigue, or more digestive distress, or more, and people get, freaked out because they're like, I thought things are going to get better. And it's like, okay, things do sometimes have to get worse before they get better. And that also translates into the mental, emotional, spiritual realm. Like I will see my clients, giving an example of the liver is directly tied to things like anger and resentment and frustration. And so I will have clients go through deeper liver cleansing and they're noticing like all this resentment and anger towards an ex-partner come up, and they're getting a colonic and they're crying and can't stop crying, or it manifests differently for everyone, right? But people are releasing not only this physical waste, but they're releasing a lot of stored trauma or negative patterns or fears or blocks that have been sort of lingering within the body. And yeah, things can get like worse before they get better, right? And I think that's important for people to understand as they go through this process of detoxification is like, yeah, again, the symptoms are the cure. Like sometimes it just, you have to go through, the only way out is through. You have to go through the mud to get to the other side.
I find that process of recommitting, that moment of,
Mhm.
where you're maybe bottoming out, or it looks like it's going to be a while, um, what do you find that people can draw on to sustain them
Mhm.
through? Because I find that people will go, oh, it's just too hard. I'm just gonna, I'll just change a couple of different things and it's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They won't let themselves really have the
Mm.
experience of the freedom of
Mhm.
having an open flow of circulation and
Totally.
information.
Yeah.
So at that point, can become, and also I would imagine that sometimes they would blame you, like, "Hey, you
Mhm.
said I was going to get better, and now I'm worse."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always say, cleansing is a process, not a one-time event. So I think we live in a world that people are wired to think about quick fixes. And so they think, oh, I'll take this pill or I'll take this supplement or I'll do this 5G juice cleanse and all of my physical symptoms will go away. When in reality, like cleansing and detoxification is an ongoing journey. It's a process with various different modalities. And there's also a requirement for rest, hydration, and integration. So you're not meant to do everything all at one time.
Right.
My journey with my health, it took years, and I didn't start with liver cleansing. I started with just eating healthier foods and more plant-based. And then I started doing colon cleansing, and then I moved into liver cleansing and then parasite cleansing. That took many, many years, and I didn't do everything all at once. And so cleansing, yeah, is really a process. And there's a lot of daily modalities that can support the body and, again, releasing the waste from the body to make the experience easier for you. So the analogy I like to use there is like, if you deep clean your house, but you have garbage bags all over the floor, your house is not going to be clean. You need to take the garbage out of your house for your house to be clean. And the same thing applies to your body. So when you're going through a detoxification process, you need to use modalities that support the body in the removal of waste, because it doesn't just like people think, oh yeah, my body, my colon and my liver, like eliminate toxins. And yes, that's true. But if your toxic overload is so profound, it's almost like rust in a sink pipe. Like that doesn't just go away when you put water. You have to like get something, a plumber to come to unclog it and take that out. Same thing applies to your body. So things like colonics and enemas, and even just basic things like juicing, hydration, infrared sauna, cold immersion, lymphatic things for the lymphatic flow, like movement and rebounding, like all of these things help the body in releasing the stored toxins. And again, there's more, in my practice, I work on deeper modalities, right? Like including supplementation and things like liver flushes and parasite cleansing and all that stuff. But there are some basic modalities that just the average person can use each and every day to help their body in releasing potentially stored toxins, just like sweating, for example. So yeah,
The thing that I always find interesting in this conversation is how people, and maybe that ties to integrity, because how long did it take? Like they want the solution to be immediate, but how long did it take for your body to be as clogged or as,
I know. Yeah. 100%.
20 or 30 years to get here, and now you want one little pill to like clean the whole thing, and it feels like we've been dissonant.
For sure. Like I work with clients for at minimum 3 months, sometimes 6, sometimes longer, but the minimum is 3. And, sometimes in a consultation, I'll say like, okay, yeah, my basic program is 3 or 6 months. And people will say like, oh, some people are very bought into they're like super bought in, they believe in the method, they're ready to go. But there's a group of people that's like, can I do 2 sessions with you? Or can I do and I'm like, how old are you? And they're like 42. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been struggling with these symptoms? They're like, since I was 21. And I'm like, okay, so you're 42. There's 42 years of buildup in your body. Do you think we're going to reverse that in 1 month? And then they'll be like, okay, yeah, I think, yeah, I get it, And so even 3 months, is bare minimum, I would say, for a lot of these things. For a lot of even things like mold, that can take 12 to 18 months to release from the body. So there is a level of patience and trust that's required in going through this process. And I think luckily I think when people start the process and they start to see their physical symptoms improve and they experience the fact that their body is starting to shift, then they're bought into it. And then they believe, okay, this is how I'm going to heal my body. I had a client recently, he's a founder of a big company, and he's struggling with hypothyroidism, and he's had it for many, many, many years. He's on medication, and a month and a half in, he went to get his biomarkers retested for his thyroid, and they're trending all in the right direction. And the doctor said, I can't believe this is happening. Like, what are you doing? This has never happened since you got diagnosed. And so he came back on the call and he's like, I know that you're going to help me heal this now that I saw the data that proved that. So people just need to experience the shift and maybe see the numbers to back up that their body is changing in the right direction. And then they'll be really bought into the process, and they'll do it as long as it takes, as if they know and they really believe that they will achieve optimal health.
And in your speaking, what I hear is still the split of my body. I'm going to heal my body. And it's as if I'm not actually in my body. And I'm going to control my body, and then I'll be able to, I'm going to drive it from up here. And I'm wondering if in the process of working with you, have you seen that people experience themselves more as a whole?
Yeah.
Rather than, I'm going to control my body, and then I'm going to be able to do the things I want. And, I'm going to treat it like a car. Rather than, a source. It's my source, not only my home, but, there's just this basic, I think, that goes back thousands of years of not trusting our bodies and being afraid of our bodies. And I'm imagining that shifts as people are working with you, but I'd love to hear you speak to that.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the end, closer to the end of the containers that I'm in with my clients, 3 or 6 months, I will really notice that my clients are much more able to tune into their intuition and they're just really able to, at the beginning of the program, of course, I'm giving guidance around this is my recommended framework for eating, and this is, I'm helping them through this process. And near the end, once their systems start to become cleaner, I actually see that they're like, I today I felt like eating this. And so I had this. And the next day, I felt like I was cold and I wanted more grounding food. So I had this because I wanted to nourish my body in this way. And I do see that there's more of like, they're doing things in a way that feels intuitive and second nature to them versus like being totally in their heads about like, oh, this is what I should eat for breakfast and should eat for lunch. They're much more just like tuning into their bodies and like what will support me and my body and my physical vessel in this very moment. So there's a very big shift in how they think about the way, their food and lifestyle habits. There's less of like a rigidity to it.
It's wonderful. I love that you use the word intuition, because what I'm imagining and what I've seen with clients is that they have spent their lives reacting to all of this stuff coming from the outside. And when they get open, that intuition comes up from the inside. And if you're all clogged up, there's no space for that to happen. And so when people experience intuition, I would receive that as another signal that I'm opening up my relationship to myself as a whole person.
Really? Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think there's like an intuition that comes from within. My books are actually called From Within and From Deep Within for that exact reason of, healing the body from within, coming back to, intuition from within, all of it. So yeah, there's the intuition from within that comes up. And I think also there's, when you elevate your frequency, then opportunities and abundance and miracles just start to manifest in your life. Way more than when you're operating at a lower frequency. And I really see that start to happen as well. So again, it's really like the intuition starts to grow within the body, and then also opportunities and abundance that come from the universe tend to be amplified as well, because the person is just in a more, living in an elevated frequency and elevated state.
There was a really big shift as well for me when self-love came into the picture, when I realized that I remember choosing my food with that criteria. I would say, is this an act of self-love? If I put this food in my body right now, is that something that I'm going to feel cared for or not? And that was the guide for my decisions for so long. And I mean, that kept me, it just brought me to health. It just naturally brought me to health.
Totally. And I really appreciate that you say that. In my consultation calls, I will ask a lot of questions about the mental, emotional, spiritual, and things will come up. So for example, giving a hypothetical example, I had a call with, on a consultation call with someone, it became very clear that they had addictive behaviors with food. And so I start to dig into that. And in that instance, I don't actually think that the physical detoxification work is the most profound and will be the most profound and impactful for that person in that moment. So I always have the best interest of any potential client in mind. And so I will often tell a person like that, I think you're much better off spending your money and time at this very moment, investing in detoxing your mind from the blocks, the negative patterns, the fears, to actually come back to your true essence, to develop more self-love, to really, because that's actually probably going to impact your health more in this very moment, your physical health more than doing the detoxification work. And then once you've worked through a lot of that and you feel like your mental, emotional, spiritual baseline is elevated and you want to do detox work, then definitely come back to me. But for a lot of people, as you just said, they like think, oh, if I, do the physical work, that's going to yield the best outcome. But for a lot of people, it's actually that they need to do the mental, emotional, spiritual work, which they might be avoiding because it's sometimes harder to look at. And they're like, oh, I don't want to do this, so I'm just going to focus on the physical. But that can actually yield the most results. And that was the case, for me. I think it was both physical and mental, emotional. Like I was doing the detox work, but at the same time, I was working with a ton of coaches. I went to Hoffman process. I was studying Kabbalah studied Kabbalah with friends for 2 years. I started practicing Kundalini and deepened my spiritual practice, and all of that really fed into me coming to the state that I'm in today. It wasn't just the detox work. It was a combination for sure.
I love that. As we're wrapping up, Megan, I'm curious, you mentioned short of coming to visit you,
Yeah.
what is something that you talked about sweating, which I think something from anywhere. And
Yeah.
what else would you recommend as a first few steps that someone can take to just start this process?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think just eating more plant-based whole foods, eating more fiber, that's so, so key. 97%, everyone's obsessed with protein, but 97% of Americans are deficient in fiber, and fiber is found in all plant-based whole foods. And these foods not only give you so many vitamins, minerals, nutrients, live enzymes, phytonutrients, etc., but the fiber acts as an intestinal broom that sweeps up all the built-up matter in your system and moves it out. So the more fiber that you eat, if you feel congested, the more plant-based whole foods that you eat, the more you're going to support your body in cleansing. So I think that, I think sweating for sure, like the skin is one of the 4 channels of elimination other than the urine, the bowels, and the lungs. And it is such an important way to release toxins from the body. So sweating, that can be just movement, being in the sun, being in a sauna, steam room, that can be really helpful. And then I think juicing is such an important cleansing and detoxification tool. So a green or vegetable juice, like when you, because the juice is stripped of fiber, the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients can go straight into your cells to do very important cleansing work. So don't have a fruit juice, don't have pasteurized juice. That's a very different thing. But if you have a cold pressed organic vegetable green juice, a celery juice, any green juice of any kind, that's really, really going to support your body in cleansing. And yeah, I'm actually going to have some digital products available that will help people start this process, to give them handhold them through this entire process, whether they're a beginner or they're intermediate or they're more advanced. So I'm really excited about that.
Beautiful. We'll have those on notes when they're ready.
Yeah.
Ready. Katie, any closing thoughts?
Well, yes, I was just, as I've been experiencing, Megan, what is coming through to me is this clarity and expansiveness and groundedness, but openness. And so you're demonstrating,
Thank you,
to me, the result of living in this way, the sense of real like crystal clarity, but also spacious softness. So, I can see people going, I want what she's having.
Yeah, I really deeply appreciate that reflection a lot. And yeah, interestingly, I do have a lot of people work with me because of that. Like sometimes in the community, if I get referrals or I meet someone in person and they hear about what I do, they'll be like, okay, whatever you're doing, I want to do. But that's cool. And I do really appreciate that reflection. And yeah, it took a lot to get here. So I'm really grateful for, my teachers and my healers that have helped me get to this place. And I'm just so lucky to be able to pay it forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. This was really, my body, me and my body. Oh, I'm feeling very,
yeah, I feel very nourished.
Yes, I said the same word.
So thank you.
The same word. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. I love, these conversations are always so soul-filling. So I'm so grateful that you had me on the podcast.
Thank you for joining us.